Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is C. Preeti Saula, Chairperson of Women and Young Members Excellence Committee, and welcome all of you to the 66th session of Sky High Symposium. Friends, since last 66 Wednesdays, we are doing this, and I'm happy to share with all of you that we have given opportunity to so many new speakers and the moderators. And again, if you also want to be the participant in any way, all of you are participant audience. But if you want to be the sharing your knowledge or moderator, please feel free to connect. I can request Shanu, our secretary of committee, CA Shanu Goel, to please share the my number and on any another number, either her or anyone else number in the chat box, so that the people can connect through the message, so that they can come as a moderator or the speaker. Further, friends, we had just now a long meeting before this session with our committee and internal meeting, where we have discussed about the roadmap of further couple of months, and we have already jotted down the importance of the women CA Women Awards. And the next we had 3 days council meeting, which has been concluded yesterday only, and which will be adjourned again on the 4th September. And we have one of the agenda item to be approved by the council is the women awards. So there will be we have jotted down certain criterias and certain categories of awards. So this will be first time in the history of the ICI we will have the CA Women Awards also, to recognize the efforts of the women who have reached to the leadership positions and various as per the criterias, so that it motivates the other women fraternity also. However, it has to be yet to be approved by the council. Further, we are coming out with various conferences in various different areas of our nation. So you may participate physically also. The virtual programs as such we are doing. We are also planning to have one program on independent directors on 7th October at Mumbai, where we will have various sharing of the experiences of various independent directors. So you can join this program. The program structure is already ready, pending certain confirmations from the speakers. So once it is done, I request it will be out for the registration. Also, this is very high quality program. So we have very limited seats. So you may register as soon as possible, so that you are not deprived of this program. Because if we see the criteria of women director independent directorship is like first slot of 10 years is completing next year, and there are huge number of vacancies will be there in the listed companies for becoming the independent director. And looking that requirement and supporting our women fraternity, we are coming out with this program. So this is one of the very important information. And again, we have just now yesterday concluded with the direct tax guidance note, tax audit guidance note. Since the tax audit season is approaching very soon, and it is already started. Today is also the session by Kinchel on the direct tax only reassessments and all. I thought I'll let you know that this also direct tax audit guidance note will be available soon within a day or two, for which will support our members also. So these are certain updates. I'm not taking much of your time, but every Wednesday 4 to 6, stay connected and stay tuned for Sky High Symposium. This is 66th episode, and we in this year we want to complete 100 episodes, and this is how we are planning. Every Friday we have youth symposiums, youth excellence symposium. again 4 to 6. So you can block your diary for that also. So let us meet every Wednesday. With these words, I welcome all of you, and we have very best of the speakers today, CA Kinjal Bhuta and CA Saili Chandalia, and will be taking us through their expertise in their specific topics. We have our moderators today, Rekha Surana, who is from South, and Manjiri, who is from West, and Priyanka and Babita. So Babita is already here, but I cannot see her video. If she opens, we'll be able to see. But I can see Manjri and Rekha. Priyanka is not able to connect because of some internet issues. So, with these words, I welcome all of you, and I request Rekha to take it further.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. And welcome you all to the 66 Symposium. I would be delighted to give a short introduction to our first speaker for amendments to reassessments. Kinjal Bhuta is having a work experience of 15 years in the field of direct tax and international tax. She has more than 15 years of experience and does representations at ITAT, DRP, CIT, and other authorities. She has authored quite a few publications. One of them is a practical guide to faceless assessment and appeals, and another one is on presumptive taxation. She is a managing committee member of Bombay Chartered Accountants Society and core group committee member of Direct Taxation Committee, convener of seminar and membership development committees of BCACS. She is also a co-editor of BCACS References since last 10 years, which is a annual flagship publication of BCAS and contributor to annual budget publication. Kinjal contributes various articles to tax journals like BCAS, Chambers of Tax Consultants, IFTP, etc., and is a regular speaker in various platforms of professional importance. She writes a monthly feature of ITAT Decision in Chambers Journal. She has been awarded with the Rising Star Award 2022 in the APAC region for category of tax dispute resolution by International Tax Review. With these words, I would hand over the session to Kinjal. Looking forward to your session.
Thank you so much, Rekha, for the kind introduction. So, thank you for inviting everyone, Preeti and all other OBs who must be present today. And thank you to all the participants for logging in today for understanding these two specific topics. Topic given to me is quite technical and is on the income tax reassessments. I think, just share the presentation first. Rekha, is it visible? Just a thumbs up.
Yeah, it's absolutely clear.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so today my coverage will be, obviously this is a quite vibrant topic. We all would have some time or the other, or must have faced regarding the reassessment proceedings under the Income Tax Act, right? So why there is a relevant of this topic today so is that because reassessment proceedings have gone into a sea change, right, from what we had in the past and what we have right now. Since last couple of years there has been a sea change which requires to be understood, and that is the reason which we are here today with this particular topic. So let me just go through what are we going to try to cover today. So we do have some 45-50 odd minutes, and you can definitely keep on asking questions through chat, or probably 5 minutes towards the end. But the idea to cover today is basically the relevant legislative provisions. So there are a lot of issues which have cropped up because of the change in the reassessment proceedings. So my majority of the session I like to cover by threadbare analysis of all the sections which are there. So in all, we have around 6 to 7 sections in all in the reassessment regime. And what are the sections, what has been the amendment, and what was there last, in the previous reassessment regime, and what is there in the new one. So basically covering the amendments which have come up in the last couple of years. And then we'll go through the some of the most issues which everyone is facing right now, and which is there in dispute for almost for most of us. The recent judicial pronouncements and the landmark decisions are just for a reading purpose of participants of this audience, so it could probably help you in your practice or for your academics. So let me directly delve into what what are the highlights of the changes, right? So basically, the new reassessment regime has come up from 2021. This 1st April 2000, it came up in by way of finance bill 21, and it is applicable with effect from April. Now the highlight or the major changes which we have seen is, first is it the time limit of the reassessment proceedings. So basically I think most of us would here know that earlier we had three reassessment limits. One was 4 years, second was 6, and third was 16 years. So we had this three different limits which were available. 4 years was basically when there is a summary assessment under 143(1), or basically when there is anything which has been found wherein no return of income has been filed. So there was a time limit of 4 years. For something more serious, or something wherein there is a fault of the assessee in hiding certain details or escaping certain assessment, there the limit was increased from 4 years to 6 years. And then the third limit was 16 years, which was in case of disclosure under foreign assets for foreign clients or NRIs. Basically, there we had a higher limit. So now this 4, 6, and 16, that limit has been abolished. It doesn't pertain to the new regime. Now it has been replaced with two limits. One is 3 years and one is 10 years. So where, in what cases it could be reopened within 3 years, and in which cases it can be reopened within 10 years, that will come to into the subsequent slides and the subsequent sections I'll be going through in detail. But right now, what we have to basically gauge is that there is a change in the time limits of reassessment. Okay, another significant impact or an aspect which has been changed in the new regime is basically the search and seizure assessments. So basically, earlier we had two kind of reassessments. One is a normal reassessment, which is out of any investigations or out of any information, or basically something where you have not filed a return of income and there is some cash information which has been received by the income tax officials. So that was the normal reassessment. And there used to be another reassessments which used to happen in case of search and seizure proceedings. So in case of search and seizure proceedings, we had sections ranging from section 153A to section 153C. So the till D. So these were the four sections which were ruling the entire search and seizure reassessment procedures. We used to famously call it as block assessments. So now this entire search and seizure assessment has been now brought into the ambit of the reassessment regime. So these sections, section 153A to D, no more are effective from April 21. And if there is any search and seizure which has happened after 1st April 21, then the new reassessment regime shall come into picture. You'll have to look into the new reassessment sections. Another important academic change, or basically the fundamental change which they have brought into, is that earlier the entire reassessment procedures were dependent upon one of the most important things, which is reason to believe, which means if the assessing officer has a reason to believe that the assessee has escaped any income, in that case, the assessing officer had a right to reopen the assessment of the assessee. So basically, the entire reassessment was circling around reason to believe. However, now reason to believe has been replaced with information. What does it mean? That it means that now the assessing officer doesn't have to depend upon any reason, or doesn't have to depend upon his own belief. The requirement is now there has to be some concrete information. So now there has to be something which is tangible, something which is there on record, and because of which there will be an information, and information shall trigger a reassessment. So what they have basically done out here is they have reason to believe was quite subjective, right? Because every assessing officer will have a different reason, will have a different belief set procedures, right? So there used to be a lot of issues in the past. In fact, many of you who would have started into the practice or would have been into the course since last few years would know that there used to be a string of litigation and issues when it came to what is reason to believe. So now that reason to believe has been now replaced with information. And let me also take a minute to explain you what is the decision in case of GK and drive shafts. So basically the earlier reassessment proceedings did not have any step down procedure of how a reassessment can happen, and because of that we had a lot of controversies, and out of those controversies germinated a decision of Supreme Court which was named GK and drive shafts. So in this decision, what did Supreme Court did is it laid down the guidelines, basically a step by step procedure of how a reassessment procedure has to be handled by the income tax authority and by the assessee. So basically, that step-by-step procedure was laid down in the Supreme Court decision. That step-by-step decision or that step-by-step procedure which was laid down in GK and drive shaft was used by multiple high courts to determine whether the reassessment proceedings were correctly done or not correctly done. So then when they were amending the procedures, there I think they found the need that probably this procedure which was postulated by the Supreme Court, that needs to be brought into the act itself. It has to be brought into the statute itself, and that is what brought about introduction of section 148A. So section 148A is basically a section which is introduced to provide what has to be the methodology when there is a reassessment procedures to be done. So basically we'll go to this section in deep, but these are most of the fundamental changes which has been brought about in the old regime vis-a-vis the new one. Now let's dive into the sections one by one. So the main section of reassessment proceedings is section 147. So now, as I had mentioned earlier, we had reason to believe earlier, but now what we have is section 147 says any income which is chargeable to tax and has escaped assessment, the AO subject to section 148 and 153 assess, reassess or recompute loss or depreciation or allowance or deduction for such assessment year. So basically, let me tell you that what changes they have brought vis-a-vis the earlier law. So if we see the earlier law, which is the law before 2021, section 147 used to start with, I would read one line from that. It used to start with, if the assessing officer has reason to believe that any income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment, then he may assess a particular thing, reassess a particular thing, or recompute the loss or depreciation for that assessment year. So basically, earlier, the onus or basically the burden was cast on the assessing officer. Basically, the assessing officer had to prove or had to document or write down what are his reasons to believe, and that is why we used to always get the reasons recorded. Reasons used to be always be recorded before issuance of notice under section 147. So when I'm explaining section 147, let me also go through the point that what was the earlier procedure, because then probably we'll follow that what has been changed. So the earlier procedure was that there used to be, obviously there has to be some information or there has to be something which has to be on record, because of which the assessing officer believes that there is some escapement. So earlier there used to be some tangible information. So based on that information, the assessing officer would try to decode that information and see that based on this information or this particular investigation whether there is any escapement of income. If the assessing officer feels that there is any escapement of income, the assessing officer will write it down, will write the reasons recorded, and after recording the reasons, take approval from the principal commissioner or any other sanctioning authority. Once the authority has been given, there used to be issuance of notice under section 148. So when the issuance of notice under section 148 is done, that is where the assessee comes to know that there has been a reassessment. So suppose if I'm an assessee, I'm receiving a notice under 148. After receipt of 148, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to file my return of income in pursuance to notice under section 148 within 30 days from the receipt of notice. After I give my objections, the assessing officer has to record its objections. Basically, it has to pass an order, which we normally used to call it as disposal order. So the assessing officer had to pass an order under section 148, which is disposing the objections which I have filed. And after that, the assessing officer had to issue a notice under 143.2 and start with the reassessment proceedings. So this was the procedure which was laid down in GK and Drive Shaft, and it was the procedure which was followed by all the income tax authorities in the past. Now, what has changed? What has changed is that now the assessing officer doesn't have to record any reasons, because section 147 removes that particular formality, which means that the assessing officer doesn't require any belief, right? What is required is there is a requirement of having an information. That information should suggest that there is any escapement. So escapement is mandatory, whether it was earlier or whether it was the new procedures, because at the end of the day, the reassessment procedures can be applied only if there is some escapement of income. So the escapement is compulsory. That is something which is not being changed, and that is something which we need to keep in our mind, that there has to be something which has to be escaped. Only and only then there could be a reopening under section 147. Coming back to the new procedure, what is the new procedure? The new procedure says that there will be an information. Based on that information, the assessing officer shall issue me a show cause notice. That show cause notice shall be issued under section 148A. I will be coming to section 148A, but here right now, for our better understanding, I'm just giving you the basic procedure which is going to be followed right now. So under section 148A, the income tax officer shall issue you a show cause notice informing you or probably show causing you that why an escaping assessment should not be made in your case. So basically, here before reopening, you are getting an opportunity. So you're getting an opportunity. After getting that, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to reply, not file the return, but reply as to why there should be no reassessment. After that, again, the assessing officer has to dispose my objections, pass an order for disposing the objections, that I'm not satisfied with whatever you have written, and after that, there will be issuance of notice under section 148. In this issuance of 148, I need to file a return of income, and then the reassessment procedure starts. So, you see the difference? In the earlier proceedings, it started with notice under 148. In the new proceedings, it ends with issuance of notice under 148. So that is the change which they have brought. The most significant change which comes with section 147 is reason to believe word has been eradicated. Now, what does it happen? What does it mean, when they remove the word reason to believe and they replace it with information? What does it mean? It means that basically, does it increase the scope of section 147 or does it reduce? So there has been two thoughts here, that whether it is restricting or whether it is more of a helping kind of a section. But I'm of the opinion that when they remove the word reason to believe, the scope of the section has become quite restrictive. Why would I say so? The reason for me telling so is basically earlier, any reassessment could have happened only by belief of the assessing officer. So, basically, even if something which has not been escaped in true sense, but if the assessing officer believes so, that there has been escapement, assessing officer was right to do a reassessment, and that was the powers which were given to the assessing officer. But now when they have eliminated reason to believe, they have reduced subjectivity. With that, it means that one has to have concrete tangible information. If there is no concrete or tangible information on record, then there is no question of making any reassessment proceedings under the Income Tax Act. So I think with removal of the word, basically they have removed the subjectivity, or basically the I would say basically the specific belief process of the assessing officer, which could be different from person to person. That has been eliminated, and they have stuck to something which has been concrete and tangible. So according to me, it is something which is restricting the scope of section and has to be looked into in that particular way. Another thing is, one of the another important issues, which we have under section 147 is basically the earlier provisions used to allow the assessing officer to make any other addition beyond what has been recorded. So let me explain you this with an example. So suppose the reason has been recorded, in case whenever you sell a property. So if the property has been sold, I think we all know that. So I'm giving a very common example, that if you sell a property where you sell lesser than the stamp duty value, in that case, difference between your agreement value and stamp duty value is normally considered as an addition. It is considered as deemed income under section 50C. So basically, you're not allowed to sell lesser than the stamp duty value. Now, let us take an example of that. That you sold a property which was lesser than the stamp duty value, and you received a notice under section 147 saying that there has to be some income under section 50C. Now, this was the reason which was recorded for which the reassessment proceedings were to be started. Now, while doing the reassessment, they obviously did make addition under section 50C, but while doing so, they also realized that in my business, they asked me, some other things. They asked me some business books or books of accounts, etc. And where they found out that there are certain expenditure which are personal expenses, and that also needs to be added. Now, understand here one thing. The reason recorded was for sale of immovable property, whereas what they are adding is basically sale of immovable property plus the personal expenses. Now, in the earlier proceedings, could the assessing officer do that? The answer is yes. So if the assessing officer found out anything beyond what is there in the reasons recorded, the assessing officer had a liberty to make an addition in the total income of that particular thing also. But now let us take in another example. The another example is that, in this particular case only, where there was 50C and where there was personal expenditure. Now, after 50C, I made certain I made certain changes in the or I made certain amendments, and in those amendments, or in the in the submissions which have been filed before me, it went to the DVO, and my value reduced, and the assessing officer basically at the end of the assessment was convinced that there is no addition which is required under section 50C. In such a case, the assessing officer dropped what was the main reason which was for which assessment was reopened, and only added my personal expenditure. Now, whether that was allowed, that was something which was not allowed. We have classic case laws of Jet Airways and Asian Paints, which is both Bombay High Court decisions, wherein and various other High Court decisions too, wherein they had specified that the section says that the assessing officer can make an addition and also can make any other addition. And because of the words "and also," it meant that the assessing officer always had to do both the additions. Basically, the main addition for which the reopening had happened, and any other addition also. So that the assessing officer cannot drop the main thing, the main thing for which it reopened, that thing cannot be dropped and then you take up something else and make an addition. That was something which was not considered to be allowed under the earlier provisions. Now, fast forward, let's come to what is there today. So now today there has been an explanation which has been added. So explanation to section 147 was always there, but this explanation is a little different. What does this explanation say? That any subsequent issue which came to the notice of the assessing officer even though section 148A was not complied with, that particular addition could be made. So now what is what does it say basically? Basically it says that when there is any subsequent issue which is being coming up to the light of the assessing officer, then for that particular issue you are not supposed to require to issue a fresh show cause notice. 148A is basically like a show cause notice. So there is no requirement to have a specific 148A notice, and the assessing officer can continue to make an addition for that particular aspect. However, as I had mentioned in the earlier provisions, there were words and also. Those words have been now deleted under the new section. Now, what does it happen when you remove that? Does it mean that the assessing officer is now not allowed to make any other addition beyond the reassessment? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. Why it would not mean that? Because there is an explanation which has been specifically brought about that any subsequent issue can be added also. So according to me, right now under the new provisions also, if there is any specific information which is caught the eyes of the assessing officer while doing the reassessment, that particular addition can be also done. Along with that, another important thought process, why there are so many, I would also like to stop here a minute and say that why there are a lot of opinions and lots of thought processes here, because these particular new provisions have not been tested in the court of law. They are fairly new. They were made effective with effect from 1st April 21. The only litigation right now which we have is basically for the writ petitions which are filed. But apart from that, the normal legal procedure where it happens, where it comes from assessment to CIT appeal to ITAT, that has been still at the CIT appeal stage. And still, that is the reason why the legality of these provisions have not been tested in the course of law. And that is why there are lots of ifs and buts, and there are lots of interpretations which one can be open to till we are not coming up with a certainty. So here the here one of the thought process and the most common thought process which people have after the new provisions is that earlier, since there were words and also, and since the assessing officer was basically required to make both the additions, the primary addition and anything else, it restricted the hands of the assessing officer. That means they did not allow the assessing officer to do something beyond what is being recorded in the reasons. So here when they bring up that explanation, basically what does it mean is that the assessing officer would be able to make any other addition even if it has not been recorded, even if there is no information on that. Which means, coming back to my earlier example, there was 50C addition and there was personal expenditure addition. Suppose AO is convinced that there has to be no addition under 50C. In the new provisions, the assessing officer shall continue to make addition under personal expenditure, and no one can stop the AO. That would be the fair and round explanation of this amended provisions. Now, why are we discussing so much around that? Why it is so much important? Why it is important is basically many a times which we have seen practically, whenever the reassessment proceedings are coming up, is that the information, or basically the source of information based on which the assessing officer has been doing the reopening is basically meaningless or baseless. Sometimes those information not even state that there is some escapement of income, but in the course of reassessment proceedings, the assessing officer has a liberty to maybe ask you many other things. And in asking that, if the assessing officer is coming up with something totally different, now the assessing officer has a power to make an addition. So as an assessee, or basically as an authorized representative or a chartered accountant of our clients, what is our responsibility here under the new provisions? It's our responsibility to submit only specific information or specific details which are asked for. So something, for example, if the information is based on 50C and the assessing officer is trying to probe and trying to ask you business books, okay, which are nowhere related to your sale of property, which was personal, then probably we could step down and say that this is not related to the reassessment which has been issued, and that is why we refrain from making those submissions. And I think one needs to know that as a CA, that you are not obligated to submit everything and anything which the assessing officer is asking for. And by not submitting that, what do? You help the assessee from not getting into any other trouble or any other addition in course of reassessment proceedings. So this is where I close with section 147. Now coming to section 148. Now this I think most of us know that this is the section which is basically relating to issuance of notice under section 148. So now when it comes to issuance of section 148, there are quite a couple of changes which have been made. Now it starts with that subject to the provisions of section 148A. Now 148A, obviously I'll explain it later on. It is basically a show cause notice which has to be issued. But what does 148 say? It says that once you are done with the procedure of section 148, the AO shall serve the assessee with an order which is passed. Now, what is this order? This is the disposal order, which means I have filed an objection and the assessing officer has passed a disposal order. And with this disposal order, there will be issuance to notice under section 148. Against this notice under 148, I am supposed to file the return of income. Now, earlier this limit was 30 days in the old law. So it was never provided in the section itself. Okay, let me be very clear. Whatever amendments which are getting these days across in the Income Tax Act, they are trying to be as specific as possible. So, earlier these time limits used to never be part of the section. But it was an unsaid thing that normally you had to file a return of income within 30 days. When this provisions came in April 21, it was written as that the return of income has to be furnished within the prescribed time limit. This prescribed time limit has been now amended and deleted or being brought about as 3 months. So now they are giving you 3 months with effect from 1st April 23. Okay. So if there is a reassessment which has happened before April 23, then the time limit used to be 30 days or 15 days, whatever was specified in the notice under 148. But now with effect from April 23, the assessing officer is going to give you 3 months to file your return from the end of the month in which the notice has been issued. So it is not from the date of the notice, but from the end of the month. So basically, suppose if you are receiving the notice on 16th of August, then you're supposed to file the return by 30th September. That is, it would be around 3 months. So basically, it will be 31st October. Basically, that is what is required. You're supposed to file within 3 months. Now, there are 3 provisos specially given to section 148. Now let me go. All of these provisos and conditions are extremely important to the procedure of reassessment, and we'll go through them one by one. Now, what is proviso 1 say? Proviso 1 says that no notice shall be issued unless there is any information which suggests that income has escaped assessment and AO has obtained approval of the specified authority. So here there are 4 things which are extremely important to understand. First, information. There has to be some information with the assessee. Now, what kind of information? We will look into that, what is an information. But basically, for right now, we need to understand that there has to be some information. Only having information is not important. We come to the point number 2, which is income should be suggestive, which means that because of that information, there is some suggestion towards your income. So basically, the information, there should be some suggestion, and this information is suggestive that there is escapement. That is where we come to the third part, which is escapement of income. So everything has to be going hand in hand. And the fourth condition, which is the most important one also, is that after obtaining this, the assessing officer has to obtain the approval of specified authority. What is a specified authority? We'll come to that section. But basically it is principal CIT or JCIT or PCCIT. So basically any other information. So these 4 parts are critical, and all of them have to function mandatorily together. If one of them is missing, reassessment is bad and void in law. So one has to, whenever you're coming up in a situation, you need to look into whether these 4 parameters are met with. There has to be information, it has to be suggestive that there is any escapement and there is an approval. If suppose if the assessing officer is receiving certain information, because this is the most basic thing which we are seeing in the last couple of 2 years, we are receiving information from the assessing officer that look, there is some bogus purchases which is being showed, or you are some beneficiary party to a search and seizure, because of which you are required to tell us that why there should be no reassessment. Now if you get a notice under section 148A only stating that there is some information, then you need to object that yes, there is information, but nowhere the assessing officer has mentioned that why this information is relevant to me. So there has to be some connection, no, there has to be some nexus between the information and between escapement. So both of the things, there has to be connection, and once there is connection which has been established by the AO, it is only then and then there can be a reassessment. So need to be very sure, because this is going to help in making all the legal submissions wherever we are challenging the reassessment proceedings. Coming to the second proviso, the second proviso says that for issuing notice under 148, you don't require any approval if you have taken at the disposal stage. Disposal stage is section 148AD. I will call it as disposal for being, making it easy for everyone to understand. So section 148AD is basically a section under which the disposal order has to be passed. So if the assessing officer, while passing the disposal order, has taken permission or has taken approval from the authority, then you don't require any approval at the stage of issuing notice under 148. Now, this particular second proviso is applicable with effect from 1st April 22. Why the relevance of date? The relevance of date is that there has been lots of reassessment proceedings which had happened from 1st April 21 to 1st April 22 in the span period of 1 year when the new provisions came into. So in that 1 year period, if there is no approval taken at the time of notice under 148, so a normal notice under 148, if you look into the last line of the notice, is always that there is a sanction which has been taken by the prescribed authority under section 151. This is a standard line which you always see in any reassessment notice. However, if then the reassessment is wrong or it is invalid. It is only after April 22 the approval is not required, but before April 22 there was approval required. So please look into your case specifically with respect to the dates. Just because there is an amendment, that doesn't mean it applies to all the cases which are present in litigation. And this is across the reassessment sections. Let me tell you that in all the sections, once we go ahead also, since these are new provisions, they kept on making changes. So the provisions came by way of Finance Bill 21. So there were changes obviously which were made in Act 21. In 22 also there were a couple of amendments which were made, and there were a lot of deletions which were made. In 23, the last finance bill, also there were a lot of amendments. And I think in the future also another 2-3 years, still the law is not regularized, since any new law requires a lot of amendments. So there will be a couple of changes. What is required for us is to find out that for which assessment or which amendment will be applicable. Coming to the third proviso says that the return filed beyond the period allowed under this section. So period which is allowed is 3 months. So if you have filed a return after 3 months, or suppose if you have not filed a return of income at all to the reassessment proceedings, then it will not be deemed to be written under 139. Now what does it mean? It means that earlier, whenever you filed a return under section 148, that return was deemed to be written under 139, which means that whenever there is an assessment which is happening, there is a mandatory issuance of notice under section 143(2). Now this notice under section 143(2) was mandatory under the earlier reassessment proceedings. In fact, we have a very famous Supreme Court decision in case of Blue Moon. Some of you must have heard those decisions. So that which said that if no 143.2 is issued, the entire reassessment is bad and void in law. That was what it said. That Supreme Court decision was all about that. That targeted that what is the importance of issuance under section 143.2. Now with this third proviso, it says that if you don't file return, then there is no requirement to issue notice under 143.2. So even if you don't receive any 143.2, you can straight away do the assessment. So basically it helps the assessing officers, because earlier the assessor used to take this thing, they used to always take this technical ground that notice is not issued and that is why the reassessment is wrong or invalid. So this is basically giving an expanded scope to the assessing officers. Now, coming to the explanation. Now we've discussed the three provisos of section 148. Now we go to the explanation, which is explanation 1. Which is the entire crux of the reassessment section. Now, as I have been telling you that reason to believe has been replaced with information. What is this information? We have been talking about this information. So information means, now here the word means is important. Why? Whenever there is any definition in the Income Tax Act which says means, that means that it is very restrictive in scope. That means that only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 categories which I have listed under this section, only and only these 5 categories will tantamount to information. If there is anything beyond this, if there is any 6th or 7th thing, it will not be categorized as information. So it is basically an exhaustive definition of information. So there are 5 parameters or 5 things which they have given. Again, before that, suggestion is important, escapement is important. Never forget that these two always go hand in hand. The information should suggest that there is any escapement of income. First, any information flagged in account. So the word flagged has been deleted with effect from 1st April 22, but it was there in the act before that. Any information in accordance with risk management strategy formulated by board from time to time. Now, certain words whatever words which I have strike through, those words have been deleted now. They were there in the earlier law. Earlier law means 1st April 21, when the section came. It was there in that law, but it is now not there right now. So that has been deleted. Now, what does it say? Any information which is in accordance with the risk management strategy. Now, what is risk management strategy? So let me tell you and be clear. Nowhere in the Income Tax Act or by way of any circulars or by way of any notification, they have specified that what is risk management strategy. That has been never specified in, anywhere. So basically it is, as of now, if you say it's a gray area, we don't know what is risk management strategy. Probably there is some strategy which is internal to the assessing officers, which are not brought out to the common public or layman. But normally what you should you should construe this as, what you should construe is basically, earlier we had CAS, which is like computer aided scrutiny system. So there used to be certain criteria based on which there used to be assessments or reassessments. So if you ask me, mostly risk management strategy is nothing but uh, these kind of information or these kind of criterias which are formulated by the board means civility, and which is internal, probably guidance given to the assessing officers. So that is one, which is information in accordance with risk management strategy. Second, any audit objection raised to, so by CAG has been removed, which is Comptroller Auditor General has been removed. So that means any audit objection by any auditor raised to the effect that assessment has not been made in accordance with the provision of this act. Now, what are the other audit objections? So basically, there is one audit objection which is very serious in nature, which is from the CAG, but those are in very high profiled cases, right? Because CAG doesn't get into each and every small or petty case. But there has been a lot of audit objections which are required under the Income Tax Act. So basically, what is an audit objection? Audit objection is basically just seeing that whether the assessing officer has done a correct job or not. So if there is any audit objection raised by any auditor which is appointed by the income tax authority, or we know that there are audits for valuation under section 142 2A, or there are certain cost accountants which are appointed as auditors. So if there is any other audit which has been wherein the auditor has been appointed by the income tax authority, and that auditor says or raises an objection that there has been something which has not been done as per the provision of income tax act, then that will be considered as information. So here again, it's again a gray area, because one thing is for sure, that how come, and any auditor, so suppose if they have appointed a valuation officer for as an auditor for auditing certain books of accounts or accounting records, how will that particular auditor specify or say that that the books of accounts have not been done as per the provisions of income tax act? So it's all basically a very lopsided situation, but yet it is a part of information. Now part 3, it says any information which is received under agreement under section 90 or 90A. So what does it mean? 90 and 90A is basically double taxation avoidance agreements, which is tax treaties. So if I have a treaty with USA, and USA is giving me certain information of some particular person who is there in USA, okay, a Indian person or some person who is there in USA, and if that information is given to me, then that information which I am receiving from the government officials of another country, that is also considered as information. Now, vis-a-vis this, let me give you an example that there are certain paper which, we have heard about this a lot, Panama papers and other so and so papers which get leaked in the market. So if I receive some information from a leaked paper, will it fall under this provision? It will not fall, because that is under the leaking which has happened. That is not through the government which I have received. So basically, the leaked papers cannot be considered as information. Fourth, any information which is made available under the e-verification scheme. So this is crucial. This is the most important part. What is e-verification scheme? So e-verification scheme came up in 2021. Okay, that is faceless collection of information. We all know about AIS and TIS. So basically, AIS and TIS were the forms, or basically the the information which was passed out in last 2 years. It has come since last 2 3 years, wherein any officials which are required to file SFT, which is specified financial transactions. We know there is SFT form. So there are banks, there are financial institutions, there are NBFCs, insurance companies, stamp duty authorities, and so on and so forth. So to whomsoever SFT is required, those particular entities, when they file SFT information, and that SFT information does not tally with the record which I have as an assessee, you will receive a notice from e-verification scheme, which is you will receive a verification notice. This notice will be sent to you on email, and it will be sent to you on, through the assessee to an SMS, and the assessee has to respond to that particular notice by agreeing or disagreeing, by giving certain details or by giving certain attachments or etc. So basically, through the portal, through the income tax portal through which we file our return of income. So when you receive that e-verification notice, you are supposed to file a reply to that. After you file a reply to that, the assessing officer under the verification scheme either will accept it. If the assessing officer accepts, then probably there will be no action taken further. But if the assessing officer is not accepting whatever you are writing or whatever you are submitting, the assessing officer will straight away issue you a notice under section 148. So basically, this is what is e-verification scheme, and many of the people are not even aware of the e-verification scheme, and lots of free assessments are happening because of that. But because people assessee does not inform the CA that there is a notice which has been issued, and that is why that particular notice is always unattended. And because it is unattended, you straight away get a reassessment notice, and then you will have to get into a complete pool of assessment proceedings. So probably we need to take care of whenever there is a notice under e-verification, that compulsory needs to be addressed to. And the last, any information which requires any action in consequence of order of tribunal or court. So basically, any tribunal or any court, if there is any action. So suppose if there is a SEBI or there is a SAT authority order which has been received. Based on that SAT authority order, if there is any information which is given, that will qualify as information under section 148 explanation 1. So this is when it comes to, so kindly register these 5 things in your mind when it comes to information. If there is anything beyond this, it is not information, and if you receive anything beyond this, then probably you have a right to object to the information. Coming to explanation 2, now these 5 categories were the definition or meaning of information. Coming to deemed information, so in which cases it will be considered that there is a deemed information and there has to be 148. So there are 4 criteria here given again. The first criteria is that there is a search which is initiated after 132, after 1st April 21 under 132. So if there is a search which has happened in your place, then by default that is considered as information. This is the basically the search and seizure procedures which I talked in the first slide. This is the place where they bring the search and seizure procedures to the reassessment proceedings. So first there has been a search, second there has been a survey. So survey happens under 133A. So if there is a survey which is conducted under section 133A, then that is also a part of deemed information. Third, if the AO is satisfied that there is any money, bullion, jewelry, or any valuable article or a thing which has been seized under 132, so when there is a search which has happened, and in that search, if there is anything belonging to the assessee, so suppose search may not happen at my premises, right? It might happen at the premises of some XYZ. Now, in that premises of XYZ, there is some money. Probably there is 10 lakhs cash which is found, and that 10 lakhs cash is found pertaining to me, belonging to me. Though I am not searched, then also that will qualify as deemed information. So that is the third criteria, and the fourth criteria is that AO is satisfied, okay, that any books of accounts or documents seized belongs or pertains or relates to the assessee. So let me tell you, the first and the second, you know, is search and survey. But in the third and the fourth criteria, one word is common, and that word is satisfied, which means when there is no search and seizure in your own place, at that point of time, the assessing officer has to be satisfied that either it belongs to you, there is some tangible thing which belongs to you, or there is some information, some books of accounts which pertains to you. And in that particular case, also there will be deemed information. Now, let me give you one classic example of this fourth one, because most of the search which we are getting right now is under, this explanation to part 4. So basically, suppose there is this client code modification. Okay, there is this client code modification which is happening, and under this client code modification, there is one broker, okay, which has been scrutinized or which has been searched upon. So there is one search which is there on the broker, and in that broker there is a list of all the account holders. You are one of the account holder, and there is one information which is pertaining to you. In that particular case, you fall into this subcategory 4, and that is why it will be considered as deemed information. So basically, these are the 4 categories. One another significant change which they brought about in Finance Act 23 is earlier, there were 3 years bracket which was given. So if there is a search, there is a seizure, there is an information, or there is books of accounts, past 3 years they could reopen together. Now the word 3 years have been removed. So what does it mean? Now when you remove 3 years, they can probably do up till 10 years also, or they could do only for that year also. So basically they are widening the scope and giving it to the assessing officer to determine as to when and which assessment the assessing officer has to reopen, right? So basically this is with section 148, and now we come to the last section, which is the most important one, which is section 148A. Now, I told you about section 148A earlier. That was basically with respect to GK and drive shaft, right? So this decision is basically brought into the section 148A. So there are 4 subsections A, B, C, D. Subsection A says that the assessing officer may conduct an inquiry with the prior approval if required. So this is an inquiry stage where the assessing officer will just inquire with you, obviously formally, but you will receive a notice under 148A. Subclause A, and they will ask you certain information, and if they are satisfied, probably they will not go further. Subclause B says that you will be given a show cause notice. So basically you will be given an opportunity to show cause, to make a reply, and you will be given at least 7 days time. So you will be given minimum 7 days, maximum 30 days. So this is the time frame. Again, one more place where they are giving the deadlines within the section itself. So you have to see if this is done within 7 days or 30 days. If it is, doesn't happen within the time limit, probably you can take it up as an issue in the appeal. So opportunity is given. You are required to make a reply against this opportunity given to you. Once you make the reply, subclause C says that the assessing officer has to consider what you have replied, and subclause D is basically order, which means based on the information and based on whatever you reply, the assessing officer will apply that information and your explanation both together, and after putting both together, it will pass an order, and there is time limit for the order also. There is 1 month time limit for passing the order also. So you have to again look into that also, whether the order has been passed within time. So if that order has to be passed, and in that order, if the assessing officer is not satisfied, which most of the cases he is not satisfied, so he will probably say that I'm not satisfied for so and so reasons, and along with this order you will be receiving notice under section 148. So this will be the last stage. So this will entire procedure is given to you, which means that you are given an opportunity before the reassessment happens, and after that a notice under section 148A is given to you, and you basically file a reply. So yes, Rekha, how much time do I have?
Actually, it's
Done?
I think it's already done. Are you left with a lot to cover?
No, most of the things are to be taken up later on, but let me just complete the section. That's it. And then I'll just stop. Okay.
Sure.
So now, 148A is basically, as we come to know that 148A is basically an opportunity stage. Let us take that section as an opportunity. However, there are certain exceptions. Now, what do you mean by exceptions is that in these 4 criteria which I have listed out, there will be no opportunity given. There will be straight away reopening notice which will be issued. So one is search, which we already talked about. So if you are the assessee and search has happened at your own place, then there is no requirement of giving an opportunity. You will straight away receive a notice under 148. That is first. Second is that a search may not be happening at your own place, but it has happened on some other person, but AO is satisfied that whatever has been seized or whatever has been searched belongs to you. So in that is the second case where straight away notice under 148. Third is search is in case of other person. However, the information is pertaining to you. So here they are increasing the entire gamut of reopening proceedings, where they are mentioning that even if a piece of information is against you in that particular provisions where search has happened or a seizure has happened, in that particular case, you will straight away receive a notice. There will be no opportunity given. And the fourth case is of e-verification. I did mention about the e-verification scheme. So when there is an e-verification scheme under section 135A, since you were already given an opportunity at that particular stage and you probably replied or did not reply, now you don't get an opportunity once again. They will issue you a notice under 148, straight away without getting into this procedure of section 148. So basically, I think this is it. There is just 2 minutes I'll take for this section 149. Yeah. So before 149, let me get to 150 and 151 because we end reopening with that. So 151 is basically sanctioning authority. Basically, you just need to read that. It just says that which authority can give out approval to the assessing officer. And section 150 has basically not changed from the previous procedures. Coming to 149, 149 is the time limit which I talked about. So we have 3 years and we have 10 years. 3 years is like an open time limit. It is applicable to everyone. So that is just like a standard. For 10 years, there are criteria. So what are the criteria? Are that there are 3 criteria. One is that if the AO has in possession any books of accounts, which shows that there is any escapement pertaining to any asset, any expenditure, or any entry in books of accounts. So these are the 3 things which are 3 legs which are extremely important. The expenditure and entry in books of accounts has been recently brought into. The earlier section had only assets. So basically here, what does the assessing officer need? The assessing officer needs in its possession some books of accounts or some evidence. And that evidence should be revealing that there is some escapement by way of any asset or expenditure. If putting both the things together, possession of books of accounts and this information, if the amount which is to be escaped is increasing beyond 50 lakhs, so there is a limit which they have given. Because why there is a limit, because whenever they are exceeding from 3 to 10 years, there has to be something very serious, right? Only then you can reassess something beyond 3 years, because asking for information of 10 years is quite huge. So basically there has to be something beyond 50 lakhs, because that brings the seriousness to that particular section. So if there is more than rupees 50 lakhs, then in that case, basically there will be a 10 years time limit which will be applied, and the assessing officer can go. So whenever if you receive any notice which is beyond 3 years, you need to look into that, what was the reason it was beyond 3 years, right? If there was no reason, then the notice is time barred and probably the reassessment is not valid. So these are the certain criteria and amendments. I have obviously covered a lot of issues and decisions, but they were not meant to be covered on today's session because we had limited time. But I would definitely urge everyone, you will get the presentation, so you could please go through, then whatever amendments which we have gone through today will really make sense when you read on with the decisions along. Yes, Rekha, I think I'm done. If we have any questions, then I can take it up.
There are no questions.
Yeah.
I don't see any questions from anybody.
Okay,
Um,
fine.
Probably because it was maybe a very elaborate. But just one thing which I wanted to
Yes.
ask Kinjal, what would have triggered all this, like these amendments? Is it like something on lesser number of litigations or ease of doing business? What would have triggered this?
So basically, see, we all thought probably there was a report which had gone before the reassessment proceedings, wherein there was, in fact, the situation was reversed, that there used to be a lot of litigation when it came to reassessments, because we have, like, plethora of decisions of high court tribunals, probably running into lakhs of decisions. And that is where we found, there was a report which was put up before the budget committee, that there is some requirement to bring into some relief or some specific procedures, so that there is not so much of litigation. So they did take the suggestion, but after taking the suggestion, rather than simplifying, probably they just tried to complicate the law. That is what it seems right now, because there are lots of amendments which are crisscross and lots of amendments which are not supporting each other in the sections, and that is why the controversies and issues have started coming up even under the new section. In fact, lots of matters have already traveled to Supreme Court in the new provisions also by way of writ petition. So the intention was to streamline the procedure, and that is why lots of time limits and lot of straight procedure. But at the end of the day, because of multiple amendments which they brought in last 2-3 years, it has made it a little confusing state of affairs.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kinjal, for explaining
Yes.
in a short span of 45 minutes. You have enlightened us on the changes to assessment procedure, and there are so many aspects to it. So the change in time limit, the scrapping of reason to believe, and the section 148, 149. I mean, they are so lengthy information, and explaining each of the terms so beautifully. And it was a lucid yet a very detailed presentation. So thank you so much on behalf of everyone for enlightening us.
Thank you
With
so
this,
much. Yeah.
I will over to you, Manjari, for the next set of sessions.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to introduce our next speaker, Saili Chandalia Kochari. She carries with her decade plus of rich global corporate experience, including practice. She is a holder of professional degrees to name the few: Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Chartered of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, UK, Business and Finance Professional from ICAEW, UK. Among her recent corporate positions, she was UK Operations Reporting Manager at Smith & Nephew, UK. She was a manager having different profiles in leading international investment banks, Credit Suisse Group, Switzerland, Deutsche Bank Group, Germany. She is the founder director of AB Kothari and Company, a global advisory firm having presence in London, Mumbai, Pune, and Nashik. Saili is recognized speaker and respected faculty at reputed forums. She is an active member of national and global associations dealing with professional development, women and youth empowerment. To bring the smiles over face is one of her fondest passion. With this, I would request Sally ma'am to take over.
Thank you so much, Manjari and Kinjal. Congratulations. I mean, it was so difficult to, I mean, after so many years, I've gone through this income tax stuff because rarely in corporates once. Sorry. Yeah. So once you're into corporates, you get departmentalized, and your Indian taxation takes a little backseat. And my husband, he charges 5,000 rupees to to get my returned file. And he absolutely emails me like, no, you pay me 5,000 and only then I'll be able to do this thing. So that way, now I have a better connect to whom to whom I'll tell to my husband that no, you're not going to file my return anymore. So on the lighter note, thank you so much, Kinjal. That was quite elaborative, and I'm not sure whether the members are here who introduced me. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. The committee member, Rekha, Babita, Manjari, and Preeti to invite me on this forum. So I know that'll be a shift of mind when we are dealing with, because I've been told that technical part is over. Now you need to get into the soft skills, and I'm sure why they have said that, because getting that income tax and sinking into all those procedures and policies and changes would be difficult to digest if I take up any technical session after that. So quickly, my session towards it will be, do we Rekha ji and Manjari, do we have people can talk to us, can chat us, do we have this facility with us? Because I would like them to talk to me, and it should be two-way communication rather than me only speaking. So if they have any questions during my session, I am free to take up immediately rather than waiting till the end of the session.
Yeah, the questions they can definitely send. As
Okay.
far as interaction is concerned, I would
Chat.
want the tech support. Babita, can you let us know whether they can even interact?
Or
Like, can
maybe
they
the
talk?
chat could be off.
Maybe you start. Meanwhile, we'll just get that sorted.
Right. Okay. So my topic today is harnessing global opportunities. Just because I was, fortunate enough to work around the corner, some 15, 16 odd countries. But thanks to the international investment bank, international financial institutions, they are not just investment banking; they are much more into that. So thanks to that, and that's how you keep on going to the places and meeting new people and going through different roles and perspectives. So what I would rather here would be talking is about how to tap those global opportunities, being a chartered accountant from India, sitting in India, and having those global exposures. So these are the few of the things which I have learned throughout my journey, which I would rather try and explain to you. So let me check quickly if I can share. Is it visible, Rekha?
It just not yet. I mean, we can see that you have started sharing your screen to this. Yeah, it's come up now.
I'm up now? Okay.
Yeah.
So is it a
Okay.
full screen? Not yet?
Not yet.
Now?
Yeah, I think this is fine. This fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So harnessing global opportunities, that pretty much. So your best quote, it's the small step for the man, but there's a giant leap for mankind. So don't worry about taking that first step. I like this particular quote very much, and I think it is quite relatable for all of us. Let's quickly fast check our thought process. Whenever this global opportunity comes in our mind, what do we do? Arey, main kar sakta hu kya? Do I need to do that, or do I need to get out of my comfort zone and mera mati mera desh types things? And do they even consider us? Of course they would, right? As much as we think that there is a problem, but 99% there is a chance that it is just not the problem, it is just here, right? So take that one step ahead and talk to people and get those stigma broken. So yeah, skills for Indian CA to work abroad. These are the few of the things that I could kind of think about the diverse management skills. So diverse management skills, that means the diversity, inclusion and equity, so D and I. So we corporates, we generally talk in D and I, and how much diversity we are bringing, how much female count we are bringing to the table, how inclusive we are. So diverse management skills is the thing that you have to be really well versed with. There will be different background people from different castes, career, culture, nationality, beliefs, religion. So there is no one thumb rule to deal with them. So that's the diverse management skills that you need to do as a team player and as a leader or a top management guy. Languages, yes. So language, Germany, French people, they do have English thing, but then it is always better to have those languages done according to the regions that we are going to get into. So if we are getting into Germany, then German would be the preferred language of mode of communication for there. And if you know about that, so why not, right? So that is the languages thing for you. And so they say whenever you are in Rome, be as a Romans. I mean, do as the Romans do. So language, if you know, it's an added advantage. Technical skills, of course. I mean, that is prerequisites from all of those skill sets that I've mentioned. Technical skills go a long way. Whether little bit of soft skills here and there or languages here and there is all right, but whenever you're technically super strong, so technical skill is something that will take you the places. Communication and collaboration, this is quite preemptive. Communication and collaboration is new oil, and they say the data is the new oil, or what do we say, ESG, or these things are happening. So how do we know? So by communicating, right? So communication and collaboration is the thing that is something that we need to look after too. Critical thinking, intercultural competence, emotional self-regulation, and networking. So networking, how do we do networking? Just like you and me sitting here in one platform talking to each other, not really, but then yes, we will be. So talking to them, having the LinkedIn profile done, going to the forums, getting yourself associated with a few of the groups, that will get your networking quite strong, right? So these are the basic skill sets that we need Indian CAs to work abroad. So few triggers that we need to see is like, there are different time zones, holidays, economy and politics, experiencing new culture, how well equipped you are with all of that. So these are the few things that we need to get into. So questions to be asked. So whenever, these are basic 4 questions that came into my mind when I was preparing this. So what language is spoken most often in that country that you're thinking to go, right? And will you be able to adapt that new culture? So the second thing is, how does that culture of the country you're thinking about to living is differing from where you are? Are there any transitions from your habits or your cultural shifts? Are you adaptable enough to take those changes? What are the social rules of the country that you are thinking about, and should you be aware of the differences, how people talk to each other or act, right? And the religion, what religion is most common in the country when you're thinking about? So do you need to change anything? That's thing, right? So let's quickly get into global opportunities. These are the average skill, I mean average salary that we get as a chartered accountant, starting salary as a fresher, right? So if you get into Canada, United Kingdom, Denmark, or Australia and New Zealand, this is something that you can expect, who have their open work permits. So this is something that you can expect to get into. Countries suitable based on the industry. So United States, banking, technology, and entertainment. China, again, renewable energy, e-commerce, manufacturing. Germany, again, automotive engineering, chemicals. Japan, robotics, automobile, and this thing. So list would go on. Certifications for securing securing the jobs abroad. So we do have TOEFL, IELTS, or Cambridge. So on that, I mean, these are the generic certification that you do. But then we have, like, ICAI has different treaties, different reciprocatory arrangements that we have with Australia and New Zealand, Nepal, Malaysia, England and Wales, CPA Canada, Ireland, SAGAM, and Saudi, Kuwait, Afghanistan, Netherlands, UAE, Azerbaijan, Kenya, Bahrain, Tanzania, to name the few. So these are the treaties that we have. ICAI have with these different different institutions that we have. So why not to utilize such? I'll just stop sharing. Why not to utilize such arrangements that we have, right? So. Okay, participant cannot ask questions directly. Okay, I got it. Thank you. So these are the few technical things that I could think about when I was asked to talk on the how to tap global opportunities. But what I would like you to know is, like, you need to have a good international resume ready. When we are talking about just job perspective, then there is a difference between the Indian resume versus the international resume or profile, or you may call CV. So get yourself who can review your resume, who can tell you about the changes that is required. So that is one thing that you must do. If we are talking about how to have those clients, I believe there are mixed crowd. Those are from jobs, and there are from people who are from conventional CA things. So for them, I believe tapping to the clients would be difficult unless we have the membership, or we have license, or we have agreements of that particular country. For example, talking about England and Wales. So I am the member with Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. So we just need to give one exam that that allows us to have the work done from the UK and from India as well. So for that, I believe having that degree or association with that institution would have the added advantage for all of us. So that is the list which is given, that what are the treaties, the bilateral agreements or unilateral agreements that we have. And I believe most of them, there's only one exam that we need to do, one exam that we need to give to be able to be the member of that particular institution. So that is the second requisite while getting the clients from outside, right? Third thing that I need to tell about those who are into conventional practicing thing, because I've seen both of the worlds. Was a practicing chartered accountant too prior to getting into Credit Suisse or Deutsche Bank or into Smith and Nephew. So prior to this, I was practicing chartered accountant. I know I know the client perspective. So if we are there, some partners or some offices, or there's some kind of collaboration that you can showcase, that will be easy for all of us to tap those clienteles, right? So you need to have the visit done to that particular country quite often. Sit there, have networking done, get your, for example, if you're going to London, so for that matter, you get that client, talk to them and get your work done from India. You charge their GBP, you pay here in rupees, and that's where we create money, right? So that is something that you need to do. And how do we do that? There are a couple of groups available. For example, ICAEW, we do have different groups wherein we share such details, wherein we share such requirements. If there are some kind of companies which are sitting in the UK and they want some work done because of their subsidiaries in India, so we need Indian chartered accountant plus UK chartered accountant to be able to sign those documents. So that is the third way to get into those work profile or this thing. Fourth is what I would rather suggest, if you are into corporates, if you want to get it associated, if you are at the early stage of your profession and you can go into job thing. So there are things which are like Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse is like, it's now being into UBS. So UBS, Nomura, then JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Barclays, HSBC. These are international financial institutions which will give you this global opportunities to even travel. So what are the roles and responsibilities available for chartered accountants there? So quickly, let me tell you, there are different roles which are available. You sitting in India, still doing work from home at the leisure of your, comfort, and still get those global exposures, would be product controller. So we all understand products, right? So there are CDS or derivatives or repos or maybe equities, debentures, right? So, and there are three types of offices: front office, middle office, and back office. Back office is generally where we chartered accountants we sit, right? And middle office, they are bridge between the front runners and the back runners. So, and the front office is the office which gets the money. Yeah, so they are revenue generating office. So getting into front office is a bit difficult unless you have requisite expertise, technical knowledge, and experience. It is difficult to get into such kind of roles in those international financial institutions. Otherwise, it is okay to get into middle office, or it is okay to get into back office. So what roles we can do? Product controllership is the thing where these front officers, they deal in and out with few of the products. He needs to understand which of his products is giving him the highest benefit. So daily basis, it is the P&L. Daily basis, it is the what do you get, balance sheet commentaries, day on day moment analysis. So that is product controller for you. Then there is legal entity controller. Legal entity controller means we understand SPVs, special purpose vehicle, right? So those, they are created for broker dealership or for M&A or for advisory or for parent child node things. So for that, you need to know IFRS, you need to know US GAAP if your entity is in US GAAP, or you need to know about our Indian GAPs as well, I mean Indian standards as well. So in legal entity controllership, you do everything about that entity. Then there is risk. So there are three types of risk: market risk, financial risk, and operational risk. So market risk, we understand when there is, market up and down goes. So there is a market risk. Operational risk, if there is a change in operations, then what kind of, for example, this Cyrus Mistry versus the late Cyrus Mistry versus the Tata case happened, and then Tata's has to intervene, and there is operational changes. So that is operational risk for all of us. And then credit risk. So credit risk happens like 2008 Lehman's Brother crash, and then all of these international financial institutions stand still at one point of time. And then there is a Basel management. So Basel is the BCBS. These are the accords, like we have SEBIs or RBIs. So there are different types of regulators like FINMA, Fed, FSA, or this BCBS. So, but then you will ask me this question that seldom we have gone through in our curriculum or in our exposure. We don't know about those FINMA reporting or federal reporting or Basel management or large exposure reporting, or for that matter, VAR model, VAR. But don't worry, you will get trained. You will know about these technical aspects. But of course, when we kind of take your interviews or get the younger professional onboarded, we just see that whether, given that particular training, is it useful, is it can do approaches there in that participant, can he do that given the training, given the opportunities to learn, can he or she do that? So that is the only thing that we know. And then after rubbing the shoulders, you'll be able to get through it, right? So don't worry. If you think that, I've never done that, please don't worry about it. You will get trained on it, right? So those are your risk related avenues that you can do. So for the risk related avenues, another question that we get, that I have done auditing, I've done taxation, I've done GST or conventional things, that so far, how far this career aspect will take me. So let me tell you very frankly, these international financial institutions, they are not, they don't limit yourself for one particular role. You can shift in between the roles, provided, given that you will do well in another role, right? So don't get stuck with and don't get departmentalized with one kind of role. You may move on to the different roles, right? And there are internal mobility and international mobility available to all of us, equal opportunities for all of us when we are there into this big banks or big financial institutions. So that is risk related things. Then there is FP&A, so financial planning and analysis. So what do we do with financial planning and analysis is like, so whatever the revenue that we generate, there is a cost aligned to it, right? So which are the costs? Probably the infrastructure cost or IT infrastructure cost, or the employees cost. So you may think about all those costs, and then those costs needs to be segregated, or those, there are the overheads which needs to be passed on to the people. So who would do that? So this is the concept called FP&A, financial planning and analysis stuff. These are the people who will take care of this cost allocation. So what do we do in that roles? So what do we do in that role is like, more majority of time we have this spend governance or saving targets or budgeting or forecasting or normalized P&L. So if there are, for example, the license agreement, suddenly there is a spike in your P&L, so you need to tell them why there is a spike in your P&L and why, how normalized we can make this P&L given this particular expenditure, we remove it. So how our normalized P&L would look like. So these are the certain things: budgeting, forecasting, month on month variation, cost governance and spend governance, or maybe the saving target. So this much was the saving target for you as a business, why this saving has not been yet done, or what are the challenges, or there are milestones, or there is a vendor management. So all these kind of roles are being taken care in FP&A role, so financial planning and analysis role. There you talk to your finance directors day in and out, right? So those are the global opportunities for FP&A roles in this investment banking. Then let's move on to the compliances. So there are different types of compliances. There are SOX compliances, internal auditors are there. As I said, there are FINMA and those regulatory. So regulatory reporting is altogether a different game to play on. So there are so these are the compliance. So if you have done your CS, or if you have done your law, or you have this high acumen, have willpower to walk into the compliance zone, so you're more than welcome to get into compliances. Then there is the regulatory reporting. So trust me, whatever we have done so far, I talked so far, these are the internal things. Whatever the little mistakes or bigger mistakes we've made throughout these roles, which is all right, but whenever there is a regulatory reporting, let it be, we got to be very mindful, because this is outside reporting, right? So anything up and down, or anything this thing, so over the we pass OTT, over the top transaction, we keep it in a suspense in rest of the roles, but not in the regulatory reporting. We got to be quite conscious and mindful enough when there is outside reporting. So there will be a lot of signing which is given which you will be giving them. So these are the regulatory reporters. Then there is a IT team which is sitting. So IT is not like the tech support that we do, but if we are SAP FICO consultant, or if we have this tech savvy thing, if we know certain languages or C++, Java or something, or you can write macros, or you have this Power BI thing. So on that, you can be the mediator from the perspective of the software, the techie guy and your client, because you understand the business and you understand a little bit about this technology. So this is the one of the roles that will take you the places to global platform. So that is that. Then there is a continuous improvement team. So what do we do in the continuous improvement team? That there is a Six Sigma Lean Kaizen techniques that we have learned, in our bookish knowledge. So yeah, there is a separate team who are there in the organization to navigate into the tough times. So what do they do? So what I believe they used to do is like just to meet directors and CFOs and CEOs, but no, their importance came into picture when we were into the famous corona things. And so they described all our disaster recovery plan or business continuity plan. So if you know, we all know 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, but there are ways to arrive at 4. 8 minus 4 could be 4. So who would do that, right? The processes are set. So the process, the input, process and output are set. They are there for lifelong and they're doing well. But then these are the people, these continuous improvement team people will ask the questions that why it is not done this way, or why it is done in this way only. So these are the opportunities which are available, who think that, who can think out of box and bring some kind of changes, some kind of improvement. So you are more than welcome. So what are the prerequisites for this continuous improvement in at least you have a black belt or master black belt in Six Sigma or stuff like that. So and in our practice we have this ISO certifications for all of us, right? So this is continuous improvement for all of us. And then there are tax team. So tax is better, I shouldn't talk more about the tax. Whatever you understand about the tax is all right. So in tax there is Indian taxation team also for this Credit Suisse, UBS, Nomura, or Morgan Stanley, Barclays, or Goldman Sachs for that matter. So they have their center of excellences in Mumbai, Pune, in South probably there is in Chennai or Bangalore, Hyderabad for that matter. So you can work for those center of excellences and get the work done. So that means the taxation, Indian taxation is also there, and then there is a global taxation is also there, depending upon which region you are supporting. So there are 5 regions: ANZ, Australia and New Zealand. EMEA is European region. Then there is MENA, Middle East, North Africa. Then there is AMS, Americas. That's why I'm saying Americas, both the zones. And then there is a Asia Pacific. So depending upon the which region that you are supporting, so that if you know the taxation, or if you know DT agreements, or if you know certain, for example, Dubai has VAT of 5%, so that is more than welcome. I mean, if you know FATCA or this international taxation. So yeah, these are the quite cream roles that we can perform as a chartered accountant. And moving on to the next and the final, this thing is like, these are the roles which you get as an entry level, but then you can move. I mean, I am telling you that's a bird's eye view, right? Underneath there are different roles and different sub teams are available. For example, when I was talking about this legal entity controllership, so there is a consolidation team, there is intercompany teams seated there, so that who will consolidate, who will eliminate this intercompany. So I'm just trying to give you the overview of the majority of the roles or majority of the segments that we as a chartered accountants we can get into. And the next question would be, which are the courses that we can do? Trust me, for entry level, Institute of Chartered Accountants, apna CA itself is more than sufficient to get into all such kind of roles. As you grow up in the ladder, if you want, so there are two things: I want to do this and I have to do this. So if you got to do that, then there are certain roles, for example, certain studies that you can do. That, for example, FRM is for risk, right? So, or maybe CFA, if there is financial analysis, and if you want to get into more detailed about it, then there is a CFA. If you get yourself associated with companies like AXA insurance company, then actuary exams of actuaries are something that you can get into. So depends on the which roles and what positions you would be, and then eventually you can get into yourself enrolled. So those are the things. And then the last thing that I can tell, there is a new thing which is upcoming in our market is ESG. So might as well this environmental sustainability and this thing. So it is quite a buzzword for us. So COP26 happened, and now COP27 happened in Glasgow. So get yourself very well versed with those terminology, how it is useful for all of you in your respective corporates or respective maybe practicing thing. So these are the roles and responsibilities as an international financial institution, so maybe the investment banking that we talk, and how to tap those. I mean, harnessing yourself for these global opportunities is a technical thing that you got to know. Your basic needs to be quite sharp, right? Irrespective of anything, debit remains debit, credit remains credit. That's about it. You need to have your basics done quite well, and then we can build on intricacies, and then we build on nitty-gritties of those roles with the due course. But your basics needs to be super strong. Second, the communication, of course. So there are problems like accent problem. We don't understand the accent. Trust me, even after 15 years of my corporate career and this thing, I still get it difficult when Singaporeans are saying whether it is tree, free, or three. Yeah, so there are even in the UK. So the Scottish accent is different, and the England, I mean, English accent is different. The native speakers are difficult. As you go a little down in the America side, so you will find, as if they are goggling up some popcorn and talking to you. So this accent problem, yes, I can understand, would be there as you start your career. But then there are ways and means to understand the things, that how do we tackle. So there are documentaries with the subtitles, and as and when, as long as uh, see, trust me, English is not our first language. I don't want you to talk Shashi Tharoor ka English. I want basic Sudha Murthy ka English is all right for me. Your message should get conveyed, right? So that is the prerequisite for the communication, and not how well versed or how fancy vocabulary that you have, or how well pronounced the words that you are using. So that is not important. What is important, can you understand the message that the other person is telling you, and can you get that work done? That's about it. So that is what I mean by language. And then yeah, communicating, telling people that if there are some red flags, or if there are something, so whistleblowing the things, that these are the things which we cannot do or we do. And the fourth thing, know your crowd is the ultimate game. Know your crowd, whom you're talking, right? So whom you're writing your emails, your email etiquettes, your call etiquettes, your conference etiquettes, whenever your presence in outside India. So these are the common things, like, if we are working, so two Indians are going, for example, in France or in Paris, for that matter, for the work, and then we just very casually say, "Ha, chalo chalo chalte hai abhi khane pe." You are talking just about going for the lunch, but then I mean, for Paris people, they would feel offended because they don't understand Hindi, or they don't understand any vernacular language that you are conversing with. So people may get offended, irrespective that you are not talking about them, or you are generally talking. So these are the basic etiquettes that we need to take care about it. Then about the cultural, so there, I mean, don't get shocked. There are cultural shocks, even I got it. So don't get too pally with people, or don't be quite introvert and not talk to anyone. So have that midway in between. How do we go and we are approachable and we are assertive at that. So that there are people who are passive, then there are passive aggressive, and then there are people who are just aggressive, and we got to be assertive with all kind of people that we have, right? So there are and never get personal with each other. Do not indulge yourself asking personal questions. I know this will sound quite basic for professionals who are senior in the profession, but I don't want to get things for granted. If there are any professional who are just about to start their career, so don't make these mistakes. Don't take people for granted. Don't talk to them quite personally. There's no feeling for your markets there, as they say, and it is quite true. There are no friends, they are colleagues, and that is true as well. On the floor, out of the office, then you can be anything, but on the floor you are just colleagues. You cannot be friends to each other. So yeah, these are the basic things that you need to you need to be quite mindful when we are dealing with them. Clear communication, documentation, the things, make it, everything should be black and white. As they say, yes, it is true. Are there any cultural biasness, or are there any racial comments? I would not deny the fact that yes, there are different types of people. Not everything is same, right? So there are different type of people who may not like you or who may like you. So don't raise your voice, raise your quality of comment. Don't get offended if they cannot pronounce your name, Sayali. So I know, but then ask them whether I am pronouncing your name right way, right? Try to say no. So whenever the Christmas will happen, they will take leaves, and whenever Diwali will happen, they will not allow you to go home. No, this shouldn't be happening. Put your best foot forward and try to tell them, no, this is not going to work. No, my team will not be able to work because I mean, I'm just telling one of the examples. There are major national holidays which are there, and then you need to put your best foot forward and say, no, there will be no support from my team because everybody would go on holiday or there's a national holiday. So these are the things that we need to remain vigilant about when we are dealing with this outsiders, I mean outside countries. Because see, ultimately we are being treated as if we are third world, and yeah, we are reasonable in terms of the cost. So for that matter, but then our quality should be, our quality should be quite higher raises. So that way, we need to perform in a way that you are not you're working as an individual capacity, but you are representing India. Trust me, whenever we are on the boards and we are in a senior levels that we talking, so we get such comments that your Indian team member Sagar has done this. So they could have simply said that, no, that Sagar has done it, but no, they specified that your Indian team member Sagar has done it. It doesn't look and it doesn't sound good, when you are sitting into the boardrooms and talking to and it's a global call, and then you get uh, the flavor of your Indian team member has done this. So remember, you are not working as your individual capacity or team capacity. In a way, you are representing your Indian culture there. So please be very cautious when you are interacting, right? So yeah, I mean, on that note, I think we are close to get to 6 o'clock. So let me quickly tell you one short story. So the story is like, there's one woman who were going into hot air balloon, and she lost her way. And then she lowered her altitude, and she kind of asked a person who was beneath it, and she asked, hello, I wanted to go somewhere, and I promised my friend to be there at let's say 5 p.m., but I think I'm lost. So do you know where I am right now? So that guy who was sitting beneath that hot air balloon, I mean just downside, he did something on his laptop, and he shouted at that lady back that, you know what, you are in the hot air balloon, you are 30 feet higher in the air and some altitude and some latitude, he said. And yeah, that's about it. So that lady, so she said, are you by any chance, are you a chartered accountant? So this chap said, "Oh, yes, I am a chartered accountant, but how do you know that I'm a chartered accountant?" So she said, because you are technically right, but the fact remains I'm still lost. I mean, whatever your technical aspect that you have given to me, I am still lost. I don't know where I am right now, and I need to be there at 5 p.m. or whatever with my friends. So that, I mean, ironically, we know everything. This is not something that I have told you like out of box and you did not know about anything of this. We know everything, but it's a matter of fact that how well versed with those practices we are. It should be in our personality, it should be in our daily habits, it should be in our daily routine or the daily dialogues that we do with along with the self care. These are the self thought process, emotional well-being that we do. So that should be the thing, that it has to be done on a daily basis to be able to be successful. So yeah, I think we are left with 5 more minutes if there are any questions. I know this is quite generic and it's just the one way. I mean, I don't know whether, I thought of talking to people, asking their perspective and talking on it. So I thought of it would be a two-way communication, but then this is by far that I could give justice to the topic which has been given to me. So yeah, I am open for any questions or things like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you have any questions regarding the treaties for ICAEW, because I have done ICAEW thing, and probably I'll be able to help you out in detail, probably in a different segment or something. But if you want to know more about that, or how we can get those global jobs, probably go on to that website. There are links available. Now that I have given you the information about those roles and responsibility, assess for yourself that which of the roles and responsibilities are you can relate with it. Get onto the LinkedIn. Trust me, on LinkedIn people do help each other. You need to draft a good message or good text or good note to them and tell them that, what, I'm looking for such and such thing, can you help me? Or if not, then probably people will be able to navigate you further, right? So utilize those social medias quite wisely. The fourth thing that you can do is like talking to your networks, talking to your colleagues or friends who are already working in those kind of companies. That will help you out. And for the new freshers, I mean freshers who have joined us, then there are campus interviews, there are off campus interviews. So please utilize those opportunities to get yourself placed in such kind of roles. Then there is one predominant question people do ask me, whether how about me directly going there? So listen to me, I mean, you can go there, but are you able to do that, though? I mean, able to get through those PR applications, permanent residency, or maybe your visa thing? Okay, if you get through all of that, right, and now you be there, are you financially so strong that you'll be there and then find out your jobs, and then then your leases are going on, your daily expenses are going, or are you able to sustain through those cycle? If not, then there is a backdoor entry open for get yourself placed with such international MNC companies or multinational companies. Get yourself placed and get yourself move through the places through internal mobility or international mobility. That way, because company sponsors you the visa, your accommodation, at least for a few days, right? You are well placed there, and you don't really have to think about that, oh my god, now how do I do about my daily expenses or daily this thing. So you have your maybe the Indian salary intact, and then you go there and network and find out. So that will be quite a lot of things, right? So that way, I think this internal mobility would be the best thing. Rekha, I think, would you
Yeah,
mind muting yourself? Yeah. So these are the few tips and techniques that I'll be able to give it to you on a short, 15-20 minutes that we have talked about. And yeah, I'm open for the questions if you have any. Yeah, Rekha and Manjari, or maybe.
Yeah, there's one question.
Yeah.
I think whatever you told towards the end, I think is an answer to it. I'll just read
Mm.
out the question. So,
Mhm.
how do we get work from international financial institution, or KPO work when we
Mhm.
do not have overseas connection and offices?
Correct.
Only bigger firms are able to grab such opportunities or work. We have tried from Upwork or other such site, but did not get any such kind of work.
Uh,
Kindly guide.
Thank you so much for asking this question. Don't get trapped about those, work from home things, or you'll just do this thing, and unless you know about that I mean, unless you have this authentic uh, websites or authentic work which are getting you done, right? I mean, getting from you, because there are quite a legal hassles that they pull you into. Majority of the time, like, there are cases, they are fraudulent, with the fraudulent ill intentions. They get yourself into contract, and if you don't do that, then there a breach of contract, and then you end up paying them rather they pay you. So don't get into that trap. The valuable question, yes, and that was my way of thinking, that we do, as a practicing chartered accountant or as a conventional chartered accountant, we seldom get these opportunity to have the global exposure. And yes, big fours or big six are there to trap, but understand one thing: for institution, individual cannot work. For institution, only institutions work, right? So if I'm going to Credit Suisse or UBS or for Deutsche Bank for that matter, and if I tell them, okay, now I'll do your GST part, will they entertain me? They will not. So don't go with the rose, get the bouquet done, right? Meaning, you got to have partnership, you got to have the institutions, I mean institutional organization structure. Why? Because one, if the institution, I mean, if you as a individual capacity, if you fail to give that work, there are people who can take up. That's why on an individual capacity basis, we institution, these bigger institutions, we do not entertain, generally do not entertain on this similar, because what are the quantum that we are talking about, right? What is the magnitude that we are talking about? It's a huge, and as an individual capacity, probably you'll not be able to deliver it. So for that matter, get yourself associated with the groups. You cannot, yes, there I agree to this, that you don't get work easily. There is no red carpet given to you and rosy picture that you go and you get. That's how I said that you got to have somebody sitting in that particular country, for that matter, UK or US or something, who will then do the PR for you. Talk to them, and because people will have faith who are there, based there, right? Because there is office, there is someone to look forward, there is some after sales, even we, there is our, I mean, there is our concern. If there's no after sales, what do I do? So that's how we need to have one office there, and that way communicate people. And then you got to move, like you got to fly SAE just like that. I mean, frequent flyer, you got to be there. And then networking. So there are forums like, if I know GITO, Jain International Trade Organization, or BNI, or Lions, or for that matter, our Rotary. So these are the platforms where, in general, that we can get ourselves get networking done. And if not, get yourself registered under, for example, UK ICAEW, and then there are different forums, then there are different groups who deal with this, maybe the job perspective or the client perspective or the work perspective or assignment based perspective. And that's how you grow. And it's like, Rome was not built in a day. You got to gradually do that. There's not big elephant, you cannot eat entire elephant at a one go. You have to piecemeal basis, right? So day in and out, you have to work day in and out. So get yourself associated with these global organizations and global platforms, and then only you will be able to get those clients done and get those certification, probably, I mean, those licenses like we have in ICAI or ICAEW or Australia and New Zealand, CPA Canada, or stuff like that. Only with CPA US we don't have any treaty. Otherwise we do have, right? So you got to be very well versed with their labor laws, with their taxation, with their compliances, and then you'll be able to do that. But yes, networking is the only key. That is the new oil, I'm telling you. I hope
And there's a continuation to this question. From which country we can get work easily or have good opportunities so that we can undergo the CPA examination of that country first?
Correct. That is quite generic to answer. I mean, there's no thumb rule per se. That's quite black, I mean, gray area. It depends what suits you: emotional, physical, spiritual, monetary benefits, what suits you, right? If I send you to Canada, and if you're a very happy go lucky person, and the weather itself is like so gloomy for majority part of the year, so that will hamper your productivity, that will hamper your efficiency and effectiveness, right? If I send you to UAE, probably, for that matter, and आपको वो गर्मी से ही परेशान हो गए, then this, so you need to answer for yourself on those aspect also, right? Because majority of your lifetime you will be there. So that is one aspect of it. In terms of getting jobs, market is quite open. They say market is stuck and it is hard to get any jobs. It is true. It is true. In UK especially, things are quite tight right now. This banking industry is quite tight right now. But then, this is the bell curve. So things will happen and things will go on. There will be stagnancy. There will be growing phase of it. That would totally depend. Ki what are the things that you want to do? If you want to get into financials, I mean banking industry, then getting yourself placed in the UK and US will be the cakewalk for you. Okay. If you want to get into, let's say, for example, any business acumen, or you are into, what do you say, new startups, then UAE or MENA would be the new happening thing for you, or maybe South Africa for that matter is the happening thing for you. So that totally depends what suits you. For example, US, okay, US, we do not have any treaty, but which state you will be placed at. So every state, like for example, Colorado state is different CPA requirements than New York, than Mississippi, than stuff like that. So which state you are going to settle down, accordingly you have to decide that what you have to do. What my take would be, honestly speaking, that is, and don't quote me anywhere, okay, what I thought of while taking this EW examination, that I need to give one exam, I mean one paper that I have to take up, and that was the easy choice for me. Wherein in Australia and New Zealand, probably I think there are 3 papers or 2 papers that you need to go, I mean take up. So you need to again select what is your work type. For me, being a UK operations head, for me having that UK degree done was more relatable. So that is quite, quite subjective answer I can think about. Unless I know you as a person, I'll not be able to guide you further.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. So with this, we are coming towards a close, and thanks, Aili, for such a,
Yes.
so much of insights into the global opportunities available for CS. And you not only covered the various roles that we could play, but also the different aspects of the qualification part, the etiquette part, and the culture, the communication, the languages. So it was
Yes.
you can within the 45 minutes you covered quite a lot. So thank you so much for this. And
Thank you.
I would also express my, thanks to all the participants here for a very patient hearing. Hope that this was a value add to you as much as we value added to it. And
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks to also the hard work behind the scenes, the people
Yes,
in the
Babita.
yes, the back office and the technical support. And last not but the least, special thanks to the chairperson and the vice chairman, Preeti ji and Abhay ji, for their guidance and taking this. And, as she mentioned, that the aim is to come to, at least 100 such programs to have the from, 66 to 100. So thanking you all for this. We also had a good time.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
was a great time.
So,
Yeah. And we close on the sharp. We started on sharp and we closing sharp. It's a beginning. I
yes,
mean, it's a
yes,
great
yes.
thing to look forward to. And this timeliness is also very important. I mean, so yeah,
Sure.
thank you so much. I had a great time. And feel free to, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch over the LinkedIn, with the same name. I am here there. Thank you, Rekha, Manjari, Tech
Thank you.
Support, Babita.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.